Welcome back to Lost in Roshar, the ultimate journey through the Stormlight Archive. I'm Christian Kremling.
And I'm Jimmy Stormbless. Today, we are diving into The Way of Kings, chapter 60 and 61. As always, full Cosmere, well, not full Cosmere, full Stormlight spoilers ahead, maybe a little bit of Cosmere. We'll give you a heads up for that. But if you haven't read the 4 books, you should probably get out of here. But for everyone else, welcome back. Christian, I'm a little hyped up. I'm crunk off the coffee, as the kids say. I don't think the kids say that anymore. And I haven't ate a lot today, and I'm a little sick. But I'm excited about these chapters because this has some of the stuff that I love the most about Stormlight.
Me too. Give me the history lessons with Daddy Dalinar.
Yeah.
And I'm on my second coffee too. So it sounds like we're speaking on 2 times speed, it's because we're ready to go. It's because we are. Yeah, I've got my new mic arm set up, and I feel like you, to be honest. I feel very professional.
Welcome to the big leagues, my friend.
Yeah. I just feel a bit extravagant because in the end, instead of just having my mic on a stand in front of me, I have it on a stand that extends across the desk and gets it in the same spot. I'm yet to see the full benefit, but I feel cool.
Well, I will tell you one of the benefits is you're going to stick a drink that's like kind of blinded by the microphone stand, and you're going to go to move your arm and you're going to spill it on your keyboard. I've done that no less than 5 times. So always put your drink to the left or the right. Do not stick it directly in front of you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm nailing that so far. Sweet.
I've ruined so many keyboards this way, and I always buy expensive keyboards because I code, and I am always furious with myself. I'm like, God, there goes $250. That sucked.
Damn, I got to be careful because I'm just a laptop guy. So once the keyboard's done, I'm done.
Yeah.
The whole setup is gone. So I'm hanging by a thread. How are you, man? How have you been in this?
I'm all right. I woke up sick on a Friday, which is always the worst. And I just didn't talk at all Friday morning. Like, I just didn't talk because I could barely get anything out. And I had, for my booktube channel, we do like a Patreon hangout. My top tier patrons, we all hang out in a video call once a month, just kind of talk about books, life, whatever. So I had to rest my voice for that. And thankfully, it was good. And so this morning, I'm just, you can probably hear it. I'm a little bit congested, but my throat's not nearly as sore as it was. But I'm also hopped up on lozenges and Dayquil and everything else. So I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. A little bit of a crappy week at work, but you have those, sometimes you don't get everything done you should have got done and whatever else. But how are you? You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm just swamped with work to do, but I'm glad to be at this part of the week, the best part where I get lost in Roshar, some might say. I wanted to ask you, Jimmy, does the number 631 mean anything to you?
What is this? What is this number? I keep seeing people. We had emails about it, and I didn't get a chance to read them. So just tell me, what is it? What's going on?
All right. The Sandman, Brandon Sanderson, is hiding the number 631 in the background of his videos for the past week or 2.
Okay.
Now, even to the point where the art director, Isaac Stewart, made a video on the channel, and in the background of his video, it says 631. So everyone's like, what is 631? What is this heading towards? Is it a date? Is it a page number? What is it? And the closest thing, through perusing the forums and the theories, the closest thing I can find is he's almost at 631 videos on his channel. So I'm guessing the 631st video will be some sort of announcement or reveal.
But why 631? Why not 630?
Because professional YouTubers, Jimmy, unlike ourselves, probably plan their videos in advance, and it just fell on that number. That's what I'm gathering. Right?
Maybe it's just a marketing play. Yeah. Obviously it's a marketing play. Obviously.
Yeah. I just love how they know the fan base. They're like, you know what? If we sneak a number in the background, they will notice. That's confidence right there.
Someone said, guys, it's literally the CVC number on the back of his credit card. I'm going to read this. This is off Reddit. This is on the Brandon Sanderson Reddit. For those of you who are unaware, Brandon keeps leaving references to the number 631 in his YouTube channel, and I have a theory about the meaning of it. An artist working on the Stormlight RPG made a post on the SA subreddit that revealed the SA RPG Kickstarter will start summer 2024. June is the 6th month of the year. So he's thinking 6 months, 3 weeks, and 1 day. will add up. So about 22 days. So June 22nd will be the
okay.
RPG. That seems, honestly, I'm going to go with that. That sounds about right.
Okay, that's all right. Well, I'm still betting on the 631st video. We'll check in. Soon, mate, and see who's got it. But yeah, look. Hopefully it's Stormlight related. Hopefully it's not like, and now the new Doomslug plushie is out. You know, I want, I want like, oh, you know what I want? I want here's a Seth chapter from Wind and Truth.
Ooh, okay.
I feel like with such a lead up, it's going to be something a bit more significant than
it's going to lead to a PayPal checkout page. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Hey, what do you think about these Prime leather bounds?
Yeah, like the I don't care, to be honest. I think it's Jimmy's trying to get me riled up on his muted mic. But look, maybe a bit harsh with the I don't care. It's just not for me. I think it's cool that you are that transparent. I feel like if I was a writer and I had all these different versions, I wouldn't necessarily want them released in this fashion, because I feel like it jumbles up, kind of clogs up the canon and the nice, like, consistent release format. And there's like Way of Kings Prime. I would be worried that someone would be confused and pick up the wrong thing. It's like, oh, my mum bought me a PS5 and it's this like AliExpress PS5.
Oh man, I got that back when Game Boy Color blew up. Oh man,
yeah.
Oh man, I had like Game Man. It's a Game Boy. I had Game Man.
Yeah. So that's my take. It's just not for me. I don't know who it's for. Maybe like the writing enthusiasts, right?
That was kind of my question. Whenever
who's it for?
I think maybe for writers it would be really interesting. Yeah. But I don't know if you would need it in a leather bound edition.
Is it leather bound or just nice hardcover?
So I'm going off of something I saw at a glance, and I just heard that I don't even think it's done or it's confirmed, but it's like they were talking about doing leather bounds of Primes. For the ultimate Sanderson fan collector, I guess, it's something to aspire to. But for me, I'm just like, if you're a Stormlight fan, your bank account has taken just an absolute walloping over the last 48 months. I mean, it's been crazy.
Yeah, it's like, we're officially in the anime world where you have to say no. You have to stop yourself. Otherwise, it's game over very quickly.
I mean, I've been looking at a Whitebeard statue that costs like $3,000.
Oh,
so I gotta chill.
One Piece statues are like incredible if you get the right ones, but they are very pricey.
They're also absurdly large. I have a Skull Knight from Berserk that my friend bought me because I would never spend that kind of money on this thing, and he bought it for me, and I don't know what to do with it. I can't put it anywhere. It's like 3 feet tall, dude. I don't know what to do.
At the front door, just to greet people.
You think? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But look, I'm all for merch. I think you got to know that you don't have to buy all of it. But like the Prime books, I think are unique, and I respect it. I'm just not that interested, to be honest.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with
you. So yeah, that's a bit of Stormlight news for once, or Sando update. I feel like there hasn't been much lately. But
he did announce a new book, right? With another author?
Yeah, children's book, I think.
Yeah.
Picture book, that's cool. He can do what can't Brandon Sanderson do. Good on him. I think it's great that he's got so many other projects, because at least for me, working on anything creative, it's easy to get burnt out. I think it's good that he has other things going on. It keeps you fresh. As much as I just wish I could have him be a Stormlight machine, that's not feasible, is it? So yeah.
Yeah, whatever keeps him creatively flowing. He doesn't owe us anything. He can work on whatever he wants, and we can pick up whatever merch we want that he comes out with, and pretty cool.
So when someone asks you, Jimmy, like, who are your favorite children's book authors, are you just going to say George R.R. Martin and Brandon Sanderson?
I mean, I will say I do enjoy Ice Dragon by George R.R. Martin. It's a very nice, I would say middle grade novel, because there's a little bit of blood violence in it, but like, it's actually a really cool story. I love it. There's an illustrated edition you can get, and I really like the art in it. Yeah, I've also heard that Sanderson's Evil Librarian series is fantastic for children. Like, unequivocally, I've heard it's amazing.
I feel like Sanderson would be a great children's author.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that whimsical, fun vibe, and I think he'd be really great. I think it's awesome that he can do so much. I just, in my little way, I'm just like, keep Stormlight really serious and really dark and cool. You know, that's I just please.
I think we'll be okay. I think he acknowledges the range of which his works cover.
Yeah.
And I don't foresee him wanting to move past, a lot of the more, I mean, honestly, haunting things about Roshar. Roshar, when we talk about exploring it and getting lost in it, a lot of that is just terrifying. There's just so many things, wildlife that can kill you, and dangerous environments and storms, and it's kind of a bleak place in a lot of ways. And then we find our light through our characters, obviously, which is the whole point of the series, I think. So I imagine that he would want to keep that range open.
Yeah. Oh man, I'd last 2 minutes in Roshar. I'd arrive, I'd be really excited, and then a bloody sky eel would snap me, and then that would be it.
Yeah, you got to watch out for them sky eels, bro.
I love how the sky eels show up in like one scene and they're never seen again.
Well, never say never. Maybe they'll make a return. Maybe
Return of the Sky Eels, book 6.
Kaladin throws the ring in Mountain Dew, and then sky eels carry him away.
Oh yeah, why? He's like Seth's road trip with Kaladin, just picked up by sky eels.
Oh, let's go, dude!
I'm flying. I want an army of sky eels to fight off the Voidbringers. That's what I want.
That I could get behind, man.
Man, I got we got a comment on the channel this week commending your Kaladin voice on that classic episode that I don't understand, and I just feel like you've gotten too serious lately with the readings. So for the Death Rattles today, I want some really thematically stirring.
My throat is on fire. I can't actually. I was actually about to say you're going to get a very mundane death rattle reading from me today.
Okay.
I can't make my throat close any more than it already is.
All right, mate. Well, do you want to jump into the death rattles? You ready?
Yeah, let's do it. We're going to cover chapter 60 and 61. So chapter 60 is titled "That Which We Cannot Have," and then chapter 61 is "Right for Wrong." And the first death rattle from chapter 60 is, "The death is my life. The strength becomes my weakness. The journey has ended."
Dated Betabenez or Betabanes, 1173, 95 seconds pre-death. Subject: a scholar of some minor renown. Sample collected secondhand, considered questionable. All right. Well, last week I was like, "Oh, is this Kaladin's dying moments?" Because we got all his other oaths. But then like the annotation makes you question it a little bit, because it's collected secondhand and it's considered questionable. I reckon it's considered questionable because it's like, this could feasibly be something that somebody says before they die.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. But at the same time, like the Knight's Radiant words aren't that well known, because like when Teft says it, Kaladin's like, oh, okay. Like he hasn't heard of him. And how do you collect a sample secondhand in that situation?
It's a good question.
Like, what does that mean?
Happen? Like, oh, he died. What did he say right before he died? And the person in the next bed that's dying is like, I don't know. He said the death is my life or something. That has to be it, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, it's on face value, it's the inversion of your first oath of a Knight's Radiant. But is it pertaining to Kaladin, or is it just a generic thing?
You know what's weird? When I see the journey has ended, I think of Kaladin, but for some reason, I felt like this was Dalinar.
Oh, I mean, it's a Dalinar chapter.
The death is my it's a Dalinar chapter, and the death is my life. The strength becomes my weakness. The journey has ended, and we have talked about if Dalinar were to ever be turned, and I think about his strength of all this time as him being the Blackthorn, and then it becomes something that gets exploited. And then this is like towards his end.
And this is a very if anyone's going to bust out a line like this as they're dying, it's probably Dalinar. He's kind of like that.
It feels Dalinar-esque. Yeah,
it does. Like a man who's been through so much.
The death is my life.
Odine's champion Dalinar.
or even if it's something along the lines of like, the strength becomes my weakness could also be his honor, and it ends up causing, like, you know, a lot of people talked about the baby champion theory, and then them not being willing, right? Like, the strength becomes my weakness, and he has too much.
That's a very Dalinar thing.
Yeah,
the strength becomes my weakness it fits well. The death is my life. That's a bit more interesting.
That's the one I'm glued to right now.
Yeah, the death is my life.
The death of what?
I mean, it's kind of Zeth vibes.
The death. The death.
Yeah.
Not my death. Or a death. The death.
Yeah, the death. That's interesting. Whose death? The child? The baby champion? Because it's his life. Because it's his grandson. That's why. The death is my life. I'm really stretching. I'm stretching for that one.
Well, I'm gonna put this into the Dalinar camp. So whenever this gets uttered in book 5, we can come back and see if I was right.
See, I think you used the word uttered. I believe it shall be proclaimed, Jimmy. It shall be proclaimed on the mountaintop.
I like it. Very prophecy-esque.
Azor Ahai is Dalinar Colin.
Okay, so let's move to chapter 61. This one I think would be more Kaladin, because it sounds like him. In the storm I awaken, falling, spinning, grieving.
Dated Kakanev, 1173, 13 seconds pre-death. Subject was a city guardsman. Well, Jimmy, this is Kaladin. Confirmed.
Oh, is this a moment we already have?
Yeah, this is the moment we have. This is end of Rhythm of War. Grieving Tien falling in the storm when he goes to save his dad Liren, and he swears his fourth ideal, and all the Spren come in and form his shard plate. And this was a scene that I think Sanderson said he'd been waiting 10 years or more to write that scene specifically. So it makes sense that it's here, and it makes sense because we've got his other oaths in the death rattles. So that's a bit of a case closed one. As far as, I mean, I don't know if Sando said so, but it's like widely accepted that that's what's going on.
Yeah, I felt like this was one of the ones that could already have an answer. And if not, I was expecting it to be Kaladin either way. I mean, grieving, you know, Kaladin loves a good brooding. So,
yeah.
Which is kind of funny, by the way. Malazan has a character named Kaladin Brood. And it's funny.
That's surely a reference, isn't it?
I know. Well, I know Sanderson actually likes Malazan, so maybe
is it spelled the same?
It's CALADANBROOD, and he's the warlord, and he has a hammer that can like end time.
Malazan sounds metal. So damn cool.
It is. It is. Pretty
it's like when I look at Elden Ring, I'm like, oh god, that's good.
Very same vibes, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like no help, like confusing, go online to figure it out. And you just need to get good.
Well, we need to start a Malazan podcast is what we should do.
It would be such an inversion, right?
I'd be like,
Jimmy, explain
what's
going on.
I would finally feel like I have one up on you. That'd be so awesome.
I'd be up for it. I'd actually be up for that. But like, I feel like I need a lot of bandwidth. And
hey, Sanderson recommends it. He actually
really
he praised it in a Q&A live stream one time. He basically said that like Malazan had carried the banner once there was like this lull between big fantasy series like Wheel of Time ending and A Song of Ice and Fire stuttering and Realm of the Elderlings and stuff. And he was just saying that like Erickson, you know, had done something kind of great. And one thing I really like about both Stormlight and Malazan, I love low fantasy, but I like series that also will lean into it and make it work. And Sanderson obviously does that very well, in my opinion, as well as Steven Erickson. So I always enjoy when two authors I like, because a lot of times in fantasy, fandoms just can't seem to get along. I mean, it's so silly to me. I don't understand why you have to dig in your heels. To me, it's ridiculous. I enjoy a plethora of series that are very different from each other. And a lot of these authors are friends. So there's no need, you know, to be so tribal.
Yeah, just let people enjoy what they want. Yeah, we're already in a niche, guys.
Yeah,
we're already in the niche.
Yeah, we have to fight against the nonfiction readers, guys. Those are the ones we got. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. All the nonfiction readers. I'm just
real
kidding.
History, Jimmy. Who needs that? Were there any Desolations? No.
There may have been.
Not interested.
The archaeological record might have wiped them away. We never know. No, I'm just kidding. Ancient Alien Split. All right, let's get in this chapter 60. That which cannot have. This is from the Dalinar point of view as well as Adolin. Dalinar has decided not to abdicate to Adolin. The two wait for the coming high storm in Dalinar's chambers with Renarin and Navani. Navani has a new Fabrial, an early model of a Painreal, which is such a weird name, which she shows the three by using it on an ache in Adolin's hand. Despite all the discoveries the engineers have made in Fabrials, they are no closer to making new shard blades and shard plate. Dalinar speculates that they were provided by the heralds themselves. Then the high storm hits and he enters another vision. And this is a good one. He talks with a man with a regal bearing, who Dalinar later realizes must be a younger Nohadon? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Writer of the Way of Kings. A desolation has just ended, and 90% of the people Nohadon ruled are dead. Some of those are still alive. Try to cast blame on Surge Binder Alakavish, who began a war just before the desolation started. Nohadon contemplates giving up his throne if he cannot actually do any good with his leadership. Dalinar, who Nohadon believes is the advisor Karm, tells him to write a book about his philosophy on leadership and how people should live. Nohadon scoffs at the idea and says that the action and the sword is what are needed. He would like peace, but to be human is to want which we cannot have. He walks off. Just before the end of the vision, Dalinar repeats Nohadon's statement. He comes back to the present time and believes he did little about discovering any facts proving this vision's true or false. Navani cuts him off, and she basically says, you've been speaking the Dawnchant, a dead language, and the phrase he just gave her may be the key needed to translate the entire language. It's been this huge mystery for scholars forever. And she tells Dalinar and his sons that it is proof that his visions are real. This is one of my favorite chapters in this book. I love the idea of, there's a lot to get into. There's ancient technology. How did we get here? There's speculation about like where this stuff comes from. There's talks about these shields in Kharbranth. Is it in Kharbranth?
I think it was somewhere in Yaakoved. Could have been
somewhere. It's somewhere in the world.
Shard shields.
But they're kind of similar to shard blades, and they can't figure out why. And then you have Dalinar interacting with the timeline, and it almost again feels like Dalinar is naming the Way of Kings or getting the Way of Kings written. Like, is he interacting with the timeline?
This really felt like, like as we understand it, right? This has all been visions from Honor or whatever. But like we saw at the end of this one, Honor doesn't show up. Dalinar's like, I got this. So this is when the god shows up and talks to me, and then nobody comes. And then I thought of you. I literally heard your voice. You're like, dude, is this like Dalinar naming the Way of Kings?
You make me sound like such a wiener, bro.
That's the best American Jimmy voice I could do. And you're like, dude, this is the moment. And I'm like, oh my God, maybe. And then I also thought of you because this is really specific and stupid. But like when we get the reveal of Dalinar being calm, I read all of Nohadon's lines in like Tony Soprano's voice. It's like, hey, calm, like the whole time.
Hey, calm mind.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, dude. Carmella. I said some pulp.
Where's the big ziti?
Okay, so I've got that out of my system. Had to say it. But yeah, I thought that, and then another point that I thought that he was interacting with the timeline was when he refers to Nohadon by his name, and Nohadon's like, what?
Mm-hmm.
And we get a very quick like Sanderson, oh, that makes sense because he wouldn't be called that back then, and he probably wouldn't even be called his real name. And I'm like, or is this Dalinar actually in the timeline saying some random name, you know?
Yes, and by the way, we speculated in one of these visions before that it felt like Dalinar was giving someone like the information, like he was naming something from the past because they had not heard it. And we were like, well, what if that is the moment in which it was named and he's actually, it's a paradox, obviously, but like and I think people have told us before that Sanderson said there's no time travel, but like, could this be a asterisk special case? Because this feels like he's like affecting the past to me.
I felt that too, but I think there is a bit of like no time travel allowed in the Cosmere. But it's still fun to talk about. Like if if we one day, because Dalinar also has the whole Bondsmith vibe going on. He's not one yet, but he can like connect people. Can he connect time? Is he? Yeah. Is like time different? I mean, I'm pretty sure he's viewing these. He goes to the spiritual realm where time is all at once. So like there is a bit of potential for time jumping. I don't know if he's affecting the timeline though. Regardless, it's very like abstract and left up to you to potentially come to that conclusion, I think.
Yeah, it also makes you wonder that if Nohadon and he's seeing this guy who is not acting like the book says, right? He's not being a philosopher. He wants to go to war and with the sword and the shield. Is it possible that the historical record is wrong, or that Nohadon actually did not write these things? Or the person we're seeing is not the real person who wrote the Way of Kings. Yeah,
like at first I was, at some point I was with Danlan. No, Navani, it was him. I know this guy. But what I was kind of like on Navani's side this time, like I don't have enough here to believe that this is Nohadon. Like he's just like kind of he's like a sage and he's like very thoughtful. That's about it. He's wearing a crown. This could be anybody. Although I think there is a couple more Nohadon visions before we're done. So maybe it is. But I want to dive in a little bit to what we see in this flashback, because I was really like going over it with a fine-tooth comb. So there's this line. It says, the ceiling was far above, carved from the rock in geometric patterns that looked faintly familiar. Circles connected by lines spreading outward from one another, and then it's never mentioned again. For me, I immediately pictured like the table of all the orders of the Knights Radiant, like at the back of the Way of Kings. You have that. It's like an artwork with each order in a circle with a line connecting to another order. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do know, because I don't know if you remember this, but do you remember whenever we had that scene with Dalinar near the pools and Wit is at the entrance and they're all separated by platforms? Do you remember this? The dinner?
Yes.
And I was like, it was interesting that it was like kind of remarked on like the shape, like it was set up as. And I was like, what if this is like the Knights Radiant like symbols? Like that's how it's actually designed. And I thought of that here.
Yeah, same thing. I just linked it in our chat there. This is the thing we're talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that looks like the ceiling that they're talking about. I'm imagining like that's.
I agree.
I'll put this up on the YouTube page, maybe. So that was cool. It just it just shows how like established this all was, which is the coolest part, because like Dalinar, I was like, dude, what's surge binding? And then what's even cooler is like I loved what Navani like was saying, because maybe it's in the next chapter, might be in the next chapter, but when Navani's like, how did they not have Fabrials? Like that changes our whole idea of the past. And I kind of just love how these people have like scientific imitations of what is basically magic from the past. Like they can soulcast because they've like mechanically figured it out, whereas these dudes were like talking to basically spirits.
Yeah,
doing it, and then the current day don't even know that. I just love that. I think that's so interesting.
Yeah, and it's a whole interpretation about how did we get here, and then like there being little like curveballs in the history. I love it.
Yeah.
Now here's a question. And this kind of dives into the whole like shard blade, and there's probably answers to some of this stuff, folks. So whenever I ask these questions, if I sound dumb, it's because I am. Do we know if like the whole idea of shard blades and shard plates came with the humans? Like obviously it's Spren, right? Like
yeah.
So they had to have figured out once they got to Roshar, right?
Yeah, it comes from the bond, like the Nahel bond, and I don't know if. I'm trying to remember. I don't think the bond works in the same sense with the listeners, because I know like they get their forms and stuff like this, but the way that like Spren form, like why do they form weapons? I suppose it's whatever's in your mind, because we've seen like them form into bloody cutlery,
right.
since, but the armor and stuff, I wonder if there's a larger story to that, like why shard plate and all this.
Yeah.
I guess the humans, through interacting with the Spren, like they figured out what they would manifest as, maybe. But you're right, like that's a question.
Yeah, and I also, they're talking about how it's inconsistent to what they have found and what it's made of and all this stuff. And I think a lot of that's because some of this stuff probably came with them when they came on the rocket ship here, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like how much did we bring? Like how much did humans add to this, or did we just hijack a whole world's stuff?
And what's it with those shields that are almost like shard plate?
Yeah, well, that's a modern day invention that people are figuring out. Although I don't know, it's been a while since I looked into like how they make those and why they block a shard blade. Because then there obviously has to be some Spren intervention. I'm gathering. But hey, to just quickly sideline from that as I go through my highlights here, I basically just highlighted everything that so-called Nohadon was saying. So from what I'm gathering, this guy, bloody Advada Kedavra, whatever his name is, where is his name? Alakavish. this Radiant was like a Radiant who basically started an uprising and started like a civil war in Roshar. Is that what you gathered?
Yeah, and this part to me was also very, like, I don't remember any of this.
Neither.
And how much is it going to matter,
Well, when you go to his Coppermine page, this is about all there is about him. So I'm guessing for now it doesn't matter all that much. But I guess it's showing us that like this ideal, yes, that's the word I chose. This ideal version of the Knights Radiant, that like, we're the superheroes, Avengers assemble, go away, big rock skeletons, is like not the reality always. Some Radiants were like, you know what, I can fly and I can glow, so I'm gonna like start an army and take over a city. Like he said, people want what they can't have. So yeah, it's showing us that maybe there was a time like that, but at some point some of the Radiants got a bit headstrong, and I wonder if that's going to happen in the next book. Are we going to get some like offshoot evil Radiants who are like, nah, man?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
I mean, you could argue Moash is kind of like that in a way, right?
Yeah, but he's more like he feels like he's under control of Odium, or like serving the Master Lord, as opposed to being like, I'm the best, I'm going to start my own thing.
Right, I got you. Let me read Alakavish, his like little entry on the Coppermine. It says, he was the Surge Binder during the time of Nohadon on Roshar. He did not bond an honor Spren. He somehow brought the world to war prior to a desolation. His powers held a large allure to common people. 11 years into the desolation, some wished to blame him, thinking that if he hadn't caused a war, the desolation would not have caused so much damage. Nohadon, however, thought that he was a symptom of a greater disease, that humanity would be torn by war and squabbling and perhaps deserve to lose against the Voidbringers, which, I think, as humans, we tend to, we'll be our own undoing. In this world, I think. So I'm along with this.
Yeah, that's nothing new. Humans messing up everything, getting too greedy.
Yeah.
Tale as old as time, Jimmy. But
we're real good at
it. Yeah, like we're pretty damn experienced at it. All right, I have to do it. I can't let it go.
Okay,
I'm gonna read this moment, and I want you to like rate it on a believability scale of is this some time loop interacting thing?
Okay.
Right? So, I cannot lead them, the man said. Not if this is what leadership brings to them. And then Dalinar says, Nohadon. The man paused to him, frowning. What? Dalinar paused. Could he be wrong about this man's identity? But no, the name Nohadon was more of a title. Many famous people in history had been given holy names by the church before it was disbanded. Even Bajurdan wasn't likely to be his real name. That was lost in time. And then Dalinar's like, oh, it's nothing. And then he moves on. Like, is this like, sorry, is like, my question, what I'm asking here is like, is this how it went down in history? Because Dalinar, like, basically inhabited this guy Calm, or are we just getting a recording? Do you think this is a
well, here's one of the more interesting parts about this vision is that in Oathbringer, Dalinar brings Venli into that same vision, and she plays the role of Karm, but has a Parshendi appearance in the vision.
This specific vision,
and then Dalinar then distracts Nohadon in order to talk to Venli in that moment.
I wish I remembered that. I wish I didn't.
I pulled it up on Google. I ain't gonna lie.
Hey, I'm glad you did, because people would be like, you missed that, and that's a really important thing.
So that makes this vision doubly suspicious.
Really important.
Yes. And the Parshendi, and here's my question. Was Karm Parshendi then?
Well, like, we got the whole thing, like, apparently Karm has one arm, and like, you know, like, Nohadon's seeing what he wants to see.
That's right.
So, like, you could be a bloody frog and look like Karm, as far as I'm understanding. So, okay, well, man, I mean, I'm really just shooting the breeze now, because I need to look at that chapter before.
It's chapter 109 in Oathbringer.
Right.
If you want, I can pull up the summary for 109 Oathbringer if you want.
I think you should, mate.
Okay.
I think you should, because, like, if he can access this like it's a recording, then I'm less inclined to believe timeline stuff. Anyway.
Yeah. So this is chapter 109. It's called Neshua Kadal, and it has a very interesting chapter, like header thing, the image.
Let me see.
It kind of looks like almost like a moon and someone staying on a ledge. It's very strange.
It's the Venli Eshonai chapter symbol, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So the death rattle for this chapter is Re Shafir, the Midnight Mother, is another unmaid who appears to have been destroyed at Ahartium. I don't know. That's
Ahartium. That's like the recreants.
Okay.
The last, yeah.
Okay. So Dalinar awaits the next high storm minutes away. Navani is nervous for him. This is the first visit to the vision since Odium appeared to him in one, but Dalinar needs to know his enemy. The high storm arrives and he enters the vision with Nohadon as a younger man. A Parshendi woman is there in the place of the king's counselor. The Stormfather warns that Odium is aware what is going on and is coming. Dalinar asked him to resist so he can talk with Venli. Venli wonders if Odium has brought her here, but it is the wrong storm. The Alethi warlord approaches her and introduces himself as Dalinar Kholin. He asked what the conditions for a truce would be. She demands a Alethkar, but he balks, suggesting other options like splitting the kingdom and allowing a Parshendi high prince. The vision starts to break apart as Odium arrives. A gaping hole opens up with brilliant light streaming through. She scrambles on the parts of the vision that are still there, trying to escape. She looks back and sees Dalinar glowing as a radiant, holding together the balcony where he stands. She is awestruck by the knight's radiant that can resist her gods and win. Dalinar knits together the palace and she rushes downstairs. A fierce wind starts up and she hangs on. Timbre arrives, struggling to reach her. As she's blown towards the hole, she snatches Timbre out of the air and falls into the hole. She hits the ground in the cave. In Marat, Timbre still in her hand. And then we cut back to Dalinar. And Dalinar feels like he's being ripped apart. The agony subsides and Odium appears as an old man. He assures Dalinar that there will be peace after Dalinar, not he, destroys the world. What? The vision ends and Dalinar hears the Stormfather weeping like a child, completely overwhelmed by Odium's power. He assures Dalinar that there will be peace after Dalinar, not he, destroys the world.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of Odium being like, "Hey, Dalinar, you're gonna do it. You're gonna kill everyone." I remember this, like the whole vision falling apart and Dalinar and Venli. I didn't realize it was this.
It is this scene.
I mean, and then I looked into the chapter title, Neshua Kadal, which just means Knight's Radiant in a different language. Maybe the Dawnchant.
Okay.
I'm guessing. I find the language is very interesting. We'll get to that. Okay. So was this Dalinar just scheduling a meeting with Venli? And he's just like,
yeah, but why this vision?
I wonder. I mean, there's so many questions about why the visions work the way they do.
Yeah, because
part of me just wonders,
could have just made a new one.
Yeah, he could have. Yeah, for sure. Part of me wonders if it's like this feels silly, but I imagine like as a storm is passing through Roshar, it's like playing a sequence of visions.
Oh.
And you like just hop in at a certain point. Oh, we're up to this chapter.
Yeah. Okay.
It could be that.
Interesting.
And he's just up to that because there seems to be a finite amount of visions because we're getting repeats.
Yeah.
Which is fun. I wish, I hope. I mean, I know it's explored, but wouldn't it be fun to like go through visions and like see how much you can get away with and how far we could take them and stuff.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
You should compile all the visions. There's your next video.
There you go. I'm still working on the Kremlings, mate. But I'll add it to the pile of endless video ideas. Okay, interesting. Well, I suppose the way that's written as well in the Coppermind, it is Nohadon. Like, there's no real disputing it. I don't know what else to really say about that.
I feel stuck on this. Like, I feel like it's again.
Yeah. Well, look, I'll go back to the vision just briefly because, he's talking about people who can scribe for him. And he says, all of my wordsmen were slaughtered when Yelignar broke into the chancery. You're the only man of letters I know who's still alive. And Dalinar's like, what? Men can write? What is this? Ha ha ha. But Yelignar is one of the Unmade, and it's the Unmade that shows up and like bonds with Amaram later on in the series. So it's cool to see like a little shout out. And I think Yelignar's also been mentioned in some of our death rattles. So that's interesting that all these Unmade were like classic villains still back then. It's not like they were good even a few thousand years ago. If they turned, it's much longer, which I found kind of interesting. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about this chapter besides I was glued to every word that Nohadon was saying, and all the little nuggets of history were really fun. I thought about the time loop thing as you did, and I thought, Nohadon had that wisdom that we see in The Way of Kings. He just wasn't ready for his author arc just yet.
Or he never wrote it and it's a farce and assigned to him.
I mean, yeah.
Same.
Awesome. Jimmy's just like, you never know, mate.
But like, what if Dalinar is affecting the timeline and we end up seeing that Dalinar causes the desolations? Like he began them somehow, because we don't know how they began, right? We don't know why this process is happening, right?
Don't think so. I don't think we've ever gotten the full origin.
Yeah, because I was looking up.
We've got ideas.
Yeah, I looked up Desolations, but it doesn't seem like there's like a hard concrete like this is why this works this way.
No, it's just no. If it was all because Dalinar spoke to bloody Nohadon in a vision, I'd be.
All right, let's read this. The first desolation occurred when mankind invaded Roshar. Humans had destroyed their previous home with surge binding and came to Roshar seeking shelter. The singers granted them the land that would later become Shinovar. Dissatisfied with that, what they had been given, the humans decided to invade the rest of the continent. This was the first military conflict between the humans and the singers. A singer who witnessed the invasion wrote the Ella Stella, I don't know how you say it, as a warning against trusting humans. So that's the first desolation?
Yeah, I feel like however we learn about the true origins, it's going to be born from the obvious tension between humans and the singers, and kind of like odium and honor being like the master chess players with cultivation on the sidelines, influencing people. But I don't think we've got a super clear like, all right, now we've got the heralds and we've got the Radiant, and we're going to respawn every desolate. Like, you know, we got to learn a lot before.
There is a little bit here, right? So it says some of the singers that were killed by the invading humans were infused with power by Odium before they passed beyond, which is capital B. These singers became the fused cognitive shadows that possess living singers and could not be killed. Ishar founded the Oath Pact as a solution. He and the other 9 people that would become heralds made a pact with honor to seal the fused on Braze. Taln was not originally meant to join the heralds, but somehow became part of the group. That's an interesting tidbit. The heralds thought the Oath Pact would end the endless war, but because they are human, there was a loophole. The heralds had the ability to bend their oath and let the fuse return to Roshar, starting a desolation. Knowing this loophole, the fuse captured and tortured the heralds.
Well, there you go. We kind of do know.
Yeah, I just have all the. I mean, there's a lot to this, right? Like I've always been like, well, why are they in this place? And if they get tortured for a certain amount of years and all this craziness. Like, how do they get transported there? Like, why does it happen the same way every time? Is still a strange to me.
Yeah, it's sort of like everyone's got their powers lined up, and both sides have found little loopholes. And like basically, the Fuse and the Heralds have that kind of similarity where they can just keep coming back, and it becomes this endless fight.
Yeah.
So in a sense, like the rules are established and the limits are known, so you kind of get a repeat scenario is what I'm gathering.
And it's just, to me, it's like I have to wrap my mind around the fact that they're driving these people back to the Tranquiline Halls, and like, how did they find, you know, like,
I mean, the Tranquiline Halls I think is like more metaphorical, right? It's like, I see that as like the spiritual realm or something to that effect. I don't think it's an actual place.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's supposed to be the original home, but really we know that's Ashen, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, the Tranquiline Halls. Yeah, I've heard that too. That it's just Ashen. Yeah, that's probably more correct than the spiritual realm. I want to see Ashen. Give me a chapter on that planet. What is going on there,
bro? There's so many things to dive into. It's actually overwhelming, the amount of lore that's in this series. Like, it's actually crazy.
I know, because like people want you to do the whole Cosmere, which of course, yeah, that's very important. And this series does go into the Cosmere more than the others. But just on Roshar alone and its history and its world, there is a more than enough lore to keep you, you know, guessing and interested.
Nerdified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then he's got me hook, line, and sinker, if you haven't noticed. But let's do 61, man. I love this chapter.
So it's called Right for Wrong, and basically it's after the vision. Dalinar sits to Navani and Renarin. Adolin is gone for the high storm damage report, appearing shaken that the visions are real. Navani asks Dalinar why he thinks the man in his vision was Nohadon. Dalinar can't give evidence, but he's sure that it was him. Prodded on her knowledge about the Desolations, Navani tells what she knows, but insists Yasna is the historian. They continue to debate, thinking about the old magic, but discard that option. Dalinar is also disturbed that the visions are real, and he asks to be alone. Renarin leaves immediately, but Navani lingers. She tells Dalinar why she really came back to the Shattered Plains. She felt useless, expected to fade to the background and not be involved. She closes the door and they kiss passionately. Spicy. Afterwards, she tells him that something is wrong on Roshar, something bigger than the War of Reckoning that they are fighting. She shares her knowledge about the assassination of the King of Jakaved by a Shin Shard bearer wearing white. Who could that be?
Oh, Zethi. We do love your fashion choices.
Yeah. Easy to spot, thankfully.
Yeah. Oh, that kiss, Jimmy. Did you feel the little energy?
Yeah, little tingle.
Little buzz there.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you feel, what was the term?
Vibration?
Amused, elated, confused, worried, and ashamed at the same time? Because I sure did.
That is honestly exactly how I felt when I read this. Yeah.
Just ashamed with your little Way of Kings. just the sheer shame of the moment.
Just staring like no one saw my safe hand today.
But for real, I'll give Sando credit. I was like, this kiss, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Like, it was a great description in my opinion. I like Navani and Dalinar's romance quite a bit. Yeah, I do too. And I was just like, man, Dalinar went for it. I actually did not expect that. Because obviously I know what's coming, but I didn't realize he was going to kiss her right then. And it felt like a bit of a weird moment, if you ask me. I was like, oh, Like, if you were going to do it, I probably wouldn't have done it then. But I mean,
well, they just shared this like really big revelation, and she's making him, I mean, really, she's kind of saving his status, right? Like, she's providing a way with which people might be able to jump on that. And then she's also showing her vulnerability about feeling useless. And Gavilar was not just, you know, Gavilar died, but she didn't, but she feels like she might as well have because people wanted to push her to the side, you know. And also, I think there's a sense of fear in this chapter that things are far bigger than just Gavilar being assassinated, and that it's a world event. Which yes. So I just think Navani feels useful around Dalinar, and I think Dalinar feels somewhat normal around Navani. So,
yeah, like she said, he's like the only link to her pre-Gavilar life, and he knows her. And you know what? They were like, you know, they were checking each other out way before that marriage.
Oh yeah,
and we get peeks that Gavilar might not be all he's cracked up to be.
No, certainly not. He's
maybe
the
first time here
of Roshar.
He's Bobby B.
Yeah,
Bobby B. At least, you know, the board didn't get him. At least it was an assassin.
That's right.
Yeah. But hey, they're just so in character here. Like Dalinar's feeling the passion of the kiss, and as they pull away, Navani's like, "Dalinar, I must give you a lore update of Roshar real quick." Like immediately straight into the lore. Just listing everything. Okay, I'm gonna rewind a little, and I want to talk about the language stuff because I love the language stuff. I don't know why. Give me some linguistics. Give me that Dawnchant. That's what I'm about. Look, Sanderson has some wacky names and terms, but Dawnchant is great.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay, so she's all like, "Hey, dude, you're speaking an ancient language. You are the Rosetta Stone, and we can figure this out." And I mean, I love that. What's interesting to me is there is a story in here. Did you pick up on this story, Jimmy? Because I'm like, this is the most like Jimmy and I like Lost in Roshar tangent story I've ever heard.
No,
and I'm trying to find it. Here it is. Okay. I was just like, dude, this is going to be a 30-minute discussion right here. All right,
let's hear it.
Okay. He's like, I do recall the myth of Parasvi and Nadris mentions the desolations. Because they're like, what are the desolations? What's going on? And Parasvi Renarin said she's the one who searched out the seed stones. And I'm like, stones, pay attention. So then Navani goes on and explains. Yes, Navani replied. In order to repopulate her fallen people, she climbed the peaks of Dara. The myth changes, listing different modern mountain ranges as the true peaks of Dara. To find stones touched by the heralds themselves, she brought them to Nadris on his deathbed and harvested his seed to bring life to the stones. They hatched forth 10 children, which she used to found a new nation, Mana, I believe it was called. Origin of the Makabaki, Renarin said. Mother told me that story when I was a child. Dalinar shook his head. Born from rocks? The old stories rarely made much sense to him, although the devotees had canonized many of them.
We've been talking about rocks for a long time on this podcast. And another thing that we can note, and I think it's in the first chapter, is they talk about how the stones, the soul-casted stones or rocks, were still cold, not holding the heat or something. Like it's a really weird description where he's describing, like, I was like, why is he describing the stone floor so vividly? Like, I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me. And I think it might have to do with some of this. I mean, we said it's all about the rocks. Like, we know it is.
It's all about the rocks. And there's voices in stones. There's stone shaping. There's Parshendi memories in stones. There's just a lot. And I was just like, they were like bringing life to stone. There's also like the
Gavilar is in stone.
Yeah. All these, I mean, the next book was called Stones Unhallowed. That's all I'm saying.
Bro.
I'm just saying these stones, that myth, there is truth in that. Like, I'm sure of it. Yeah.
Here's a paragraph from the chapter before this. The cool stones of the soulcast chamber seemed to hold the chill of the spring weather. It continued to refuse to slip into summer, but at least it hadn't slipped into winter either. Alethbar promised that it would not do so. But then the Stormwarden's promises were always filled with caveats. The Almighty's will was mysterious, as signs. So, we're talking about the cool stones. I guess it's probably more to get the Stormwarden's use. By the way, like we kind of just glanced over the Stormwardens, but like, yeah, they're certainly a pretty big thing, right?
Yeah.
I also thought it was interesting because it was talking about how you're not supposed to. He accepted Stormwardens now, though when they'd first grown popular, he rejected their aid. No man should try to know the future nor lay claim to it, which I thought was. It says it belonged to the Almighty himself, and then we're questioning whether Dalinar is interacting with the timeline here. So that was a nice little tidbit that we kind of missed in the last chapter. But yeah, I mean, these rocks. I think that there is 100% truth to this. I think it's also possibly going to tie into the Shin, but there's too many things about stone. The Voidbringers coming from rocks as well is a whole nother thing that we've talked about. And then my theory that Gavilar will come back and that his somehow that stone statue of him is real.
I can see like all the stones being like the soulcast statues of people gone by being awakened. That's a very Sanderson climax moment. But what I started to think was like we know that there's stone shapers, surge binders, and most likely all the old Parshendi cities and that were built this way, shaping the world, and we can see they match certain geometrical patterns with incel capsules showing us all this stuff. And then I started to think, if you could make people from stone, like this myth proclaims, is there like stone people that are created on Roshar? Like I'm kind of erring towards the side of Kandra in Mistborn. Like, are there like moldable agents in Roshar?
Yes. The answer is yes.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
I mean, there's Kandra on Roshar, but maybe we can have some stone ones as well.
Listen, just a 57-minute mark. Let's just round that. Just remember that I'm saying Gavilar is going to come back in this series. Gavilar will, in some fashion, whether it's him or not, will be in the series again. And I think it could be in book 5.
I'm not going to push back on you for this one. I'm going to let you have that.
I think Dalinar is going to have to kill his brother. I think that
again. I mean, not again. But
well, but this time, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Hey, we'll see.
You can't just drop these huge bombs and walk away, Jimmy. You gotta stand in the fire.
Maybe the death, the death is my life is coming from Dalinar talking about his brother. The death of Gavilar.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, maybe.
I'm reaching. I'll be honest.
Anyway, so we get this old magic stuff. Dalinar doesn't want to talk about it. They all kind of respect it. I don't understand how he's gotten away with like forgetting his wife for so long.
Yeah, this is one of those things. Like, if I'm being honest, this is one of the things that I don't love. About Stormlight is I feel like it would have came up. Not only that, but I feel like Adolin and him never really discussing his mother to this point, like to 3 books in, has always felt a bit off to me. Like he burned his wife alive,
It's one of those things where like it's like, don't ask Dalinar about that. You know how he gets.
But it's it's Adolin's mom.
I know. It's obviously very complicated.
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
I don't think about it too much because if I do, I start getting kind of annoyed by it. So I just kind of like let it go.
Yeah.
But just, I mean, not only just not uttering her name, but the fact that this is never a thought within Adolin's POV. Or
it's
Dalinar's.
Like, I've got to remember, like, is he just forgetting the name? Like, he knows he had a wife. Like, how much has he forgotten? I don't remember how much he still retains because he definitely doesn't know the name.
Yeah.
Does he remember what? I mean, I think part of Oathbringer is that big moment of him realizing or remembering, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah. The Dawnchant is very interesting to me. So I was reading up a little bit on it this morning before we recorded. It says The Dawnchant. Modern lore claims that the Dawnchant was a language spoken by the heralds, but its actual Dawnsinger origin likely means that the humans adopted it, at least in its written form, after the exodus from Ashen and arrival on Roshar. At some point in history, the Dawnchant became a shared written language for all humankind on Roshar, even as separate people had their own languages. As the Desolations buffeted human civilization, the different human cultures adapted the original Dawnchant script to fit their own language and developed their own scripts. This process began with simple phonetic substitution, in which humans used the Dawnsinger's script to transcribe their own languages, but it eventually led to the emergence of the Proto-Thalo-Voron glyphic radicals, which the modern Voron and Thalen glyphs come from. I don't know. It's just like, this is the detail that I love. It's like, we've got an origin story for like Thalen language, Shin language, and I think also Herdaz language that's come from like the original Dawn Singers. I just think that's very neat and fun. Thank you, the Copper Mind, for summing that up.
Yeah, and also like how much knowledge has been lost through translation. I mean, I love it. Just build out your history in fantasy series, folks. That's all I want. Like an author to go in and to think about these things is like one of my favorite things.
Yeah, because what's cool is like, I mean, I told you I'm rereading the heroes, and the Northmen and the people from Adua speak a different language, and that's about all you get. They speak a different language, and which is for first law. I don't really need.
That's
more.
about as much as Abercrombie wanted to do, you know.
Yeah, and I love that for first law. But when I'm reading, like, give me a Stormlight or a Song of Ice and Fire, I need to know where did this language come from. What does the script look like? Why are there glyphs? Why is there women's script? Like all this stuff is really like it benefits the story.
It does, and it's also in context of in the world. So you have someone telling you these facts, which means that they could be wrong. So it, you know what I mean? Like it allows for some doubt, and that is the kind. It's not always the case, but the fact that there could be something to play with makes shows like this a lot more fun.
Yeah, 100% agree, and that's why the visuals are also so important in Stormlight. I don't know if you're much more well read in the fantasy world than me, but I think Sanderson kind of stands alone with an epic fantasy with this many visuals included within the base book, which is
I agree. No, I think this is one of the things that kind of make his stuff special, is that like all this stuff wraps around back to the magic, right, of the world. So I feel like his fantastical elements are the things that he does the best for me. Like I might prefer other authors for different things, but I always know the world building is going to be taken care of. Like it's going to be good no matter what it is.
I just want to give a shout out to my favorite line. The sun approaches the horizon, the Everstorm comes, the true desolation, the night of sorrows. Got another shout out here when Navani's like, Dalinar, Yasna freaks me out. And she's getting close to something, and that's the first thing he thinks about. It's like a line, like the night of sorrows is not mentioned often. So I always, pay attention to that. Also, Navani's aware of death rattles, which is interesting. Did you pick up on that?
Oh, she is, isn't she?
Yeah. So I guess that word's getting around. Well, we saw like that maps from Bridge 4 were saying it, so they're probably noticing it in Dalinar's army too, that people are just screaming random crap.
Yeah. It's pretty wild, actually.
I wonder if any of the Kremlings in the battlefield are writing down extra death rattles.
Oh my god!
Dude, you know what I want? Like, I want epigraphs from like the Kremling Hive Mind, please, Sanderson. Like, just
that's going to be all of Era 2 of Stormlight, actually.
Just the Kremling Archive. Let's do a full rebrand. And like, yes, very cool moment, like very nice character moment between Navani and Dalinar, which I thought was very well written and captured their emotions quite well. What I did want to do before we wrap up the episode is I'll commend. I commented, I don't know who it was, but they're like, hey guys, are you not going to talk about last chapter? We didn't like Danlan. Remember Danlan? Adolin's girlfriend. They're like, you're not going to mention that she was working for the diagram this whole time? And I was like, oh yeah, I totally forgot that.
I didn't have any recollection of that at all.
Yeah. So yes, sorry, we did forget to talk about that. And yeah, Danlan is working for Taravangian, which makes her like slightly above not interesting at all. which is good.
With one of the worst names I've ever read. I hate the name Danlan. It's just not fun to say.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's like you stop halfway. So even though she dated Adolin, I read up on her. Like she still works for Dalinar, because the whole thing was they want to get Elhokar off the throne and Dalinar to rule. Like that was the original Taravangian plan. The interplay between Taravangian and Dalinar is very telling to where their story arcs are going. You know.
Yeah.
From day one.
And Dalinar is supposedly going to end the world, according to that Oathbringer.
yeah,
so
I know, right?
How is that going to happen?
I reckon he just, I don't know, something to do with those powerful glutes, I reckon.
Yeah, that most certainly. I will say there's a lot of hints at technology advancing, and then clearly we see like almost like airships in book 4 or book 3, or whatever it is. So, this is kind of the breadcrumb for that and the advancement of Fabrials and whatnot. We'll see how far the tech goes. Yeah.
I mean, some people got annoyed because we're like, we don't want too much tech. But there is a way to do it, and if anyone's going to do it, it's the man himself. There's at what point is a Fabrial too much? If I get like a Fabrial, I don't know, like if Kaladin's hopping on Xbox Live with his buddies, I think at that point I'm going to call it.
Yeah, that'll be a wrap. That'll be a wrap for Lost in Roshar.
Once the internet gets invented, it's game over. But anything else I'm basically up for.
Yeah. We'll have to see. Maybe we'll have a Shardnet or something like that.
Yeah. But with Shardnet, I think it's time to put a pin in this before it gets any worse.
Yeah.
Thank you, as always, everybody, for joining us on this episode of Lost in Roshar. Remember, the most important chapter a man can read is the next one. We'll see you next week as we dive into chapter 62 and 63.
If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, be sure to leave us a review on whichever platform you listen on. And if you have any theories, feel free to spam read us at lostinroshar@gmail.com. We'll see you next time here on Lost in Roshar. And remember to keep that safe hand covered.